Hello.
Hello.
I hope everyone's doing okay. ラフさん、元気ですか？
はい、元気です。
よかったね。今日は、何やっけ何日ですか？
あ今日は三月 shoot. It's been a bit since we've done this. This is the ni 三月に
はい。はい。
um 三月に25 15日です。
はい。はい。And 3月, when
三
we,
月。
yeah, specifically just for like the calendar months, we
Did I say
use gatsu.
sengatsu or
No, you said
gets
getsu. It's a
getsu?
slight
Okay.
thing. Yeah, it's
But
kind of tricky
yeah.
because getsu is just like month in general, but
Mhm.
specifically with calendar,
Gatsu.
that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So if you've been following along, this has been hinted at for quite some time. Today we are going to break down what is happening underneath the hood of all of the verbs that we've been using up until this point and explain how we've been conjugating things so that if you encounter verbs out there in the wild, you'll know what to do and aren't just left having to memorize every single form as if they're their own word. We're gonna give you some tools.
Oh, welcome to the hood. We got the tools. Pop it
We got the
open. Let me see that
tool.
engine.
So yeah, this will. I just want to give a bit of a like an asterisk warning. This is going to seem like a lot of information, just because there's a lot of details. But hopefully, as we move through it, you'll recognize how familiar this all feels already. Because technically, we've been doing this, right? We've
Mhm.
been putting things in their respective forms and all of that. So we're just, yeah, it'll sound pretty scary because there's a lot of just little bit details, but hopefully we'll be able to make sense of it enough and make it as digestible as possible. Are you ready?
I'm looking to digest. I haven't eaten too much today, so this will be a full
Oh,
meal
you
for my
hungry?
for
I
my.
will.
I'm hungry for knowledge. I thirst for it. I
Yeah,
crave it.
your brain is hungry. All right, well let's go ahead and get into it then.
All right.
So these are the three things that we're going to go over here. So first, we're going to break down the different categories of verbs in their base form. I'll largely be referring to them in their dictionary form. Sometimes I say short form. That's the same thing. I'm going to try and be consistent and just say dictionary form. But I might slip up a little bit. I'm a little sleepy, so
Okay.
um, then we're going to move on to specifically how to conjugate to from the dictionary form to the Moss form, because everything past that point is going to stem from the Moss form, and I will explain that in more detail once we get to that.
Okay.
It's because like the last bit is like the past tense conjugations, all the negative conjugations, so on and so forth. But these are the three steps, I guess, if you will, on how we're going to do this.
Step by step process.
Mm-hmm. So, going into our categories of verbs, the first ones we're going to be referring to as ichidan verbs. There's a handful of different naming conventions. Genki likes to call these ru verbs. I will not, just because that can be a little bit confusing once we kind of explain how these categories work.
Hmm.
So we're going to be referring to as our ichidan verbs.
And you would refer to that or translate it as like one step verbs. Is that right?
I have no
Okay.
idea. That's a
It,
great question. I've never bothered to look that up.
I think this came up for me in like the game Gengo series because I think
Okay.
I had been used to like the rube verb kind of convention, and he started talking about ichidans and godans, and I'm like I don't know what this is. But
Yeah.
I think
I'm
the
not
ichi and
I'm
go
not
do
sure.
refer to numbers if my memories
Yeah.
are good
The
forgive me.
there is a one, and that is the ichi. Yeah, I it is like one step conjugation.
Okay.
So that's cool. All
Yeah.
right. I'm learning too. Would you look at that?
Oh well.
Um, yeah, so these once again, these PowerPoints that I've already made, they are based off of the Genki textbook, specifically the third edition. So if you need to review on your own, if that works a little bit better, the explanation for Ichidan verbs are going to be on page 86. So we're just going to go right into identifying or like how to identify if a verb is Ichidan or not. So there's just really a couple of steps that we need to do. The first thing that we need to do is check the last character of the verb. If it ends in ru, we're off to a great start. However, that's not full stop. We have to do one final little bit of check. And we need to look at the preceding character, the one that goes before the ru, and check to see if it is an e or an e vowel sounding character. So I put over here some examples. So here's our uru at the end of a potential verb. Re is an e vowel sounding character, right? Ki is an e character, so on and so forth. It doesn't need to be e, doesn't need to be e. It just needs to have this sound. Okay. If it has both of these characteristics, chances are you're going to have an ichidan verb. Pretty plain and simple. So our first example here is taberu. So just going through this little check here, we go through our first step. Does it end in ru?
Yes, it do.
Looks like it does. Yeah. So okay, off to a good start. And now we need to check this previous character to see if the vowel sound is e or e. This is be, so that checks out.
Yeah.
Sick. This is a Nichidan verb. Congratulations.
That's the one step. This is it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the step contains multiple steps, if you will, but we could chunk it for the sake of.
I think the one step pertains to the conjugation, but you know.
Okay.
We'll get there.
Now,
we have another example here because it's another verb ending in ru. So let's go over our check here. So it ends in ru. Okay, awesome, right? Check. But we need to go ahead and check the previous character to see if it is e or e sounding, right? In this case, we have the verbs agaru, which is like to raise up. This is an a sounding character, not e or e. So this would disqualify it from being an ichidan verb. It's not. Even though it ends in ru, this is not an ichidan verb. This is why I kind of wanted to move away from the ru verb naming convention, because like we're going to run into a lot of non-ichidan verbs that end in ru. So I just feel like this is the easiest way of kind of making sure you can separate the two.
Avoid some false positives there.
Exactly. Any questions for ichidan verbs or their characteristics or anything like that for now?
I think right now I am good.
Okay, so we will move on. So the next category are our godan verbs. These are almost the rest of the verbs. And as far as identifying them goes, the first thing that we want to do is check that last character. If the verb does not end in ru, hey, look at that. It's a godan verb. Pretty plain and simple. But like we saw in the previous slide, some of these can, or not some, a lot of these end in, I cannot say ru right now. The R sounds just really trip me up when I'm not too prepared. But anyway.
Caffeine needed.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I've had plenty of that. Maybe I've had a little too much.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah. But okay, so if it does end in ru, we need to check that previous character again.
Okay.
If it is not an e or e sounding character, this is kind of what will distinguish it from ichidan verbs. So, like in our in the last slide, we had agaru, that is an a character or an a character, right? So I put that here as another example. We have koru as another example here. This is an o sounding character. This will be a pretty good identifier that is a godan verb. Unfortunately, when it comes to this category of verbs, there are a handful of tricky godan verbs. The reason that they're referred to this is because they have all of the identifiers of an ichidan verb, but they're just not. They just happen to be godan verbs. The thing is, though, to make it a little bit easier, is that there are not many of these verbs.
That's comfortable.
And up until this point through Akamonkai, we've only seen one out of the whole group, and I don't know, they've introduced like 12 or so different verbs. And I went ahead and looked up a list, and I didn't find like a comprehensive one, but I found one that had like 24. And in my like 4-ish years of actively studying Japanese, I knew about like 8 of them.
Mm.
So you will not come across many of these in the wild. But when you do, it will be one of those things that's just best to kind of commit to memory. Like, oh yeah, this one's one of those
This
tricky
is
guys. I
this is
gotta
the
gotta keep that in
deceiver.
mind.
The truth is
Yeah.
not in this one of
Mm,
25 or so.
exactly. I wonder if there is a very comprehensive list. I wasn't able to find it in
Mhm.
the short span of time that I looked, but point being, there's really not that many.
For like English as a second language learners, like this is like an eternal problem. There are like too many exceptions to any given rule in English, so it's nice. It's nice to see the opposite going on here.
Yeah, yeah. When it comes to like a like grammatical structure, there's not a ton of exceptions, which is pretty nice.
I like it.
Yeah. So going back to our using the characteristics to identify Godan, we have our example here, kiku, which is to listen or to hear.
Hmm.
It's also to ask a question. Funny enough, same kanji too, so that's fun.
That is fun.
But anyway, so our first step, right? We need to check, does it end in ru? This does not.
Hmm.
We're done. This is a Godan verb.
Okay.
There's a lot of these that will end in non-ru
Would you say this is the
voice.
vast majority of verbs?
No,
Hmm.
not
Okay.
really. There's a lot of these,
Okay.
but there's also a lot of the other ones.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, I suppose of the two types that we're looking at today, these are the more common within this handful.
Oh, you mean between like Godan and
Yeah,
Ichidan?
I guess
Or
I should have led with like there are other conjugation types we're not worrying about just yet, right?
yeah, there's a third category. We'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
Um, it feels like a pretty even split, to be honest,
Mm.
as far as like I've encountered.
Okay.
So yeah. Our second example here, okoru. This means, well, depending on the kanji, it means to like occur or like something happens
Mm.
or to like get mad.
Occurrence is a is
um,
a is a good word given the
yeah.
sounds.
So going to our check again, we need to see what that last character is about. This one's ru, so we can't really come to a judgment so soon.
Mhm.
But if we look at that, well, let's just come on. But if we look at the previous character, it is not an E or an S sounding character. It is an O sounding character, koru, right?
Mm.
So, I mean, and I mentioned here, previous vowel is not E or E. That checks out. So, it's a Godan verb.
Cool.
Yeah. Any questions here?
I think I think I'm good. Naturally, there's well, I was gonna say there's more moving parts here, and I'm second guessing that. I'm like, actually, that's not kind of not true. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think I'm good.
Yeah. Keep in mind that for like this slide or these first handful of slides, we're not thinking of conjugation just yet, right?
Mhm.
This is just to divvy up, what kind of verb it is so that we can then conjugate. So if you had any questions about what to do with this information, we'll probably be talking about that in just a moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the last category, I don't know what this would be in Japanese, to be honest, but we're just going to call them irregular verbs.
Okay.
Thankfully, there's not many of these. The first one that we've seen a lot is just the verb suru. This on its own is just means like to do, but when you combine this with nouns, it forms like a larger verb. So our like example that we've seen a ton is like binkyo suru.
Mhm.
Binkyo on its own means studies, but when you slap on a suru to it, it means to study, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to be pedantic, there's a ton of suru verbs, but it's still just suru on its own,
Mhm.
right? So it follows all the same conventions as suru. It's just a different noun in front.
Okay. And there's
Yeah.
not necessarily a convention for like the trailing sound that leads into that with an irregular. I imagine.
Yeah, because it's just a noun.
Okay.
Mhm. The only other verb in this category is kuru, to come,
Mm.
right? Like the opposite of to go.
Mhm.
Uh, Part of the reason why they're irregular is not because they do some crazy fancy stuff all the time. They just happen to do some slightly different things when it comes to conjugation from time to time. but their conjugated forms aren't really all that complicated. I don't know why they do their own thing. That's just how it is. I'm sure there's a reason, but we won't we won't get into that here.
Mhm.
So we have our three categories. So we'll go through a quick exercise, just running through a handful of verbs and just assigning them to what group they're in, using the characteristics that we've discussed previously. So I have the kind of steps we want to go to or go through for each category listed here. I didn't include something for like their regular verbs because it's like there's two of them.
Mhm.
You might just want to keep that in mind, right?
Okay.
But otherwise, we'll be running through this chart as we move along. Okay.
Got it.
All right. So this might be hard to read, but
It's
can you?
it's coming in clear for me.
Okay, nice. I
All
couldn't
right.
tell if the bold would make it, too bunched up or something.
All right.
But can you read this?
We'll see.
Okay. Can
Yeah,
you go ahead and read
Miru
that?
for the first one.
Uh huh.
All right. And let's go through the full process. So it ends in ru, and
Hmm.
mi has a little e in it. So this is an ichidan.
Yeah. And do you know what this verb is?
To look at. I don't know
Yeah.
what you would do with the actual conjugation, but as far as
Right.
in
Right.
isolation.
Exactly. Like, yeah, to look at, to watch, to see, same thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, it is an ichidan. Neru.
Okay. This one, this is to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or to go to bed.
Yeah. Okay. So ends in ru, um, ends in e because it's a ne. So also an ichidan.
Yeah.
Okay. And here, yomu does
Hmm.
not end in ru. Um, so I guess that's it, right?
Yeah.
Go down.
That's it. Yeah. And do you remember what this one is?
Yomu to yomi is to drink, right?
Nomu is to drink.
Nomu, yomu. Is this to rest?
That's yasumu.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
usually
Okay.
say this in a conjugated form. A lot of times you'll hear me say yonde
Ah,
kudasai.
shoot. This was in the flow, my mental flow chart, but I'm like, yon is different. I should have believed. All right. To
Yeah.
read. To read.
Yeah. To read.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay.
Um, Kaku, the Ninja Info Cards dude from Naruto, um, does not end in Ru, so that's that. Go
Okay.
down.
And yeah. And do you know what this word is?
Um, to is this to come or to go?
Yeah. This is to like write. I wasn't
Oh,
sure. I
okay,
don't
okay,
believe it's popped up too frequently, or if it has at all. But yeah, this is to write.
okay.
Hmm. Okay. Next one.
All right. Kudu. We've got Aru at the end. Um, but Ku does not end in E or E. And we're not doing any irregular fellas just yet, right?
What is this? What is this verb?
Is this one
Like
to
in
go or
English?
come?
Yeah. This is to come.
Okay.
Like
This,
iku is the verb to go.
okay. So this is kaku or kaki. Is that right?
Uh, what do you mean?
Um, like if someone was like kairimas, like they are using this, correct?
No, that is to return home. That is a different
Okay.
verb.
Okay. Then I'm gonna say I don't. I could probably spend another hour trying to think of it, but I'm gonna say don't.
Okay. Yeah. This is one of the irregular ones, one of the
Okay.
two, right? Because we have suru and kuru. Those are the only two,
Okay.
right?
And what would
Okay.
be
Hmm.
just to associate it with my mind? Could you give me an example of like what we would probably be used to hearing most often with this one? Like if it was conjugated?
Oh yeah, like kimas.
Kimas. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be talking about that in a moment.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. The next one.
Nomu.
Hmm.
And did we bring this up? Is this one to drink?
Yeah, this one's to drink.
Okay. Ends in mu, which is in fact not ru. So go down.
Pinpon. Hai, seikai
Ping
desu.
pong.
Godan. Hai, tsugi.
Okay. Okiru ends in ru, has an e at the end. I believe this is to wake up.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
So what kind of
I
verb
didn't
is it?
actually say the bit. This is an Ichidan. I was gonna say this is a
Yes.
Ru.
Yeah, Ichidan.
Okay.
Right, Saigo,
All
the
right.
last one.
Saigo. Kaeru. This is this is the other irregular. Is that right?
Oh, the only two irregular ones we have are Suru and Kuru.
Suru and Kuru. That's it. That's it. And that's all, man. Um, this is this one is the ends up being the kairi mas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, this is an Ichidan.
Yeah, this is what the first tricky one that we
Okay.
got.
All right.
Yeah,
I was not. I was like this is a shenaniganer. If you would.
that it is. And once we get into the conjugations of Godon verbs, you'll see like how this plays into that as well.
Okay.
And maybe that'll help create that association. That's like, oh, this is a Godon because this is what I do to the verb.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, like I said, we have like 15 or so, like 10 to 15 verbs that we know at this point. And this is the only one that does this weird business.
Okay.
I mean, it is just a Godon. It's a normal Godon, but
Hmm.
it just,
It's the only
has
one
camouflage
that's
on.
outside of the flow chart, if you would.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess this isn't really a flowcharty
Mm.
step, but yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's all that is. So let's go ahead and talk about moving things into the Mas conjugation.
Okay.
Ichidan verbs, this is where that one step comes into because this, like, Ichidan verbs typically have the simplest conjugations for many different forms. That does apply to Mas. So there's kind of like two ways that you can kind of think about it in a way. So the first thing is that we just take that dictionary form, which to reiterate, that is the form I've been saying all these verbs in. It's just the completely non-conjugated form. We'll take that dictionary form, we will drop the ru, and then we'll just slap on a mas. Okay. The other way that you can think about it, and this is more of like that one step, is that you just replace ru with mas.
Okay.
It just kind of depends on what's easier for you to conceptualize.
Mhm.
So I just put both, right?
Okay.
And our first example here is miru. So to illustrate, we have the whole verb in its dictionary form, and we just replace the ru, or I mean, you can drop it. We replace the ru with mas.
Okay.
So miru just becomes mimas.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions for this?
No, I'm living in Moss right now. I guess just to emphasize, you would never it would never be like Rumas. There would be nothing that has those sounds at the end, right?
I mean, there might be. I
Okay.
can't think of a verb off the top of my head, but like if you see the verb in its dictionary form, it yeah, I don't think I've seen a verb be like ruru.
Okay, okay.
But that's what it would look like at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we good?
I'm in. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to our Godon verbs, the conjugation method will sound kind of complicated, but just stick with me for a second. So once again, we take its base form, its dictionary form, and we change the very last character. Though we change the very last character to the E vowel sounding character of the same consonant group. And I have some examples over to the side of what that means. So if the last character of the entire verb is ku, like in kiku, to hear, we change that ku sound to the E sound of that consonant group, which is like a K sound. So ku becomes ki, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are some verbs that end in just the character u, and this will just change to E. But it's the same group of characters, right? Just changing it to the E sound.
Okay.
So our and then you add mas, and then you're done.
Okay.
Right. Our illustrated example here, to go iku. So we have the ku at the very end. We need to change that to a ki sound. We don't do anything to the characters before it. It is only this final character. Okay. And then just to show that's the same like vowel or consonant group, still K, right? From U to E.
Hmm.
And then once we're at this step, we just add mas. So iku becomes iki, ikimas.
Okay.
Yeah, this like every time I've said this to people, it sounds super scary, but
Yeah.
like that's all that means.
Like
You just
I did feel innate fear at the phrase consonant groups. I'm like, that's like a linguist's like a dream right there. But like in this slide, we like know
uh-huh.
like ku and u as examples. Do we do that with other groups, or will this always be like ki and e by the end of it?
Yeah, no, so it will be whatever the consonant group of that last uh hiragana is. So it could
Okay.
be like mu. So like mu becomes me.
Okay.
Su becomes she. A lot of verbs will end in like tsu, like tsu,
Mm-hmm.
tsu, and that will become chi,
Mm-hmm.
like chi,
Yeah, that was
right?
a bit of a weird one. Okay.
And then if it's changing to be, it's probably coming from boo. And I just didn't want to say that in the opposite order, but
I
you
see.
you yeah, but yeah, it is whatever that final character is. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's a godon verb. You change it to the e sounding character, and this does also apply once again to the godon verbs that end in ru, right? So
Okay.
kaeru, we change that ru to ri, and that's where we get kaerimas.
I see. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Does that help kind of
That does. Yeah.
make sense of that more? Okay, awesome. For our irregular conjugations, I don't really have tips because sometimes it overlaps. Like, I mean, I can explain it in some ways, but it kind of overlaps with other verb groups, and I kind of want to avoid that. So unfortunately, I don't really have great specific rules for these,
Hmm.
but their conjugation into the mas form is still pretty simple, and we've been saying this a lot, right?
Hmm.
So kuru becomes kimas,
Right. Okay.
yeah, and then suru shimas, binkyou shimas. We've been saying that a
Benkyo
bunch,
shimasu.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So um, once again, with these irregular verbs, it might just be one of those things that you want to commit to memory, unfortunately. But thankfully, it's just these two, so not too much going on.
Okay.
And then yeah, because we've been saying binkyou suru, binkyou shimasu.
Okay.
Ryori suru, ryori shimasu. Same thing.
Hmm.
All right. Um, Now, I think the next slide is this little flowchart that I made. This is something that helped conceptualize it for me because I spent a lot of time in my youth doing programming and just having this kind of like a logic
I was
flow.
immediately thinking of it like the same way. I was like,
Yeah,
I would like to do a little programming version of this
yeah.
quiz myself.
There's some pathing here. So let's just run through all of this. So we're combining now identifying what verb group it belongs to, and then choosing how we conjugate to mas based off of that. So our first thing for that we do for all of our verbs, aside from the irregular ones, because we just should know those,
Hmm.
we check is the last character aru. If no, we're done. It's a godon verb.
Game
And
set.
then you change that last character from u to e, slap on a mas. If that last character is ru, oh, there's a little check mark. If it is ru, we have to do this one extra little step. We have to check the character before the ru. And then from here, we ask, is it e or e? If it's not, like if it's a or o, it is also a godon.
Hmm.
And then we follow the same steps. And then we're done. If it is preceded by an e or e character, it's an ichidan. And we
Okay.
drop the ru, add the mas.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. If need be, feel free to screenshot this,
I'm
whatever
immediately
you
on it.
have to have a little reference, because especially when you're getting the habit of going through these steps, It's probably a nifty little thing to have to help familiarize yourself with it. So
Okay. Would you say at like the level that you're at now, do you still have to step through this, or are you just familiar with the verbs themselves that you don't necessarily go through this process?
yeah, so this is really good when you encounter a new verb
Mm.
that you may not know. Admittedly, and I was going to bring this up later, but I might as well say it now. Admittedly, it is kind of difficult to tell what sort of verb group it belongs to if you're looking at it in the mas form specifically, or the other mas conjugations. So
Mm.
like masen, mashita, those. But most of the other conjugation styles, this is very important and very easy to immediately tell what group it then belongs to. And from there, I can like put it in its box. Like, oh, okay, because it does this thing, it's a Godon. Oh, because it does this thing, it's an Ichidan, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So until we get to that point where we're having these different conjugation styles, I recommend in your studies having a little, just making mental notes of this, or actually writing notes about this to go ahead and categorize the verbs. Because once we get to the point where we really want to know what verb group it is, you'll already have that familiarity and be able to immediately start applying what to do because you know what verb group it is. Um, so, like as an example here, I've went ahead and tried to organize this as best as I can. I'm going to keep it in one little Google Docs page.
Mhm.
But on the left hand side here are all. Oh, this one doesn't belong here. What are you doing here? This is all out of whack. So
Mm.
what I would normally do, I should say, is I would separate these into their respective categories. So maybe I'll end up changing the right side to be all of the Godon verbs, and all of the left side to be the each done. Actually, let me just do that. So and these need to go over here. Come here.
Come here.
You as well. Right. And just making sure that you're familiar with this and knowing what it belongs to will really save you a lot of time later on down the road. Or when you encounter any verb in its base form, like anything that we've seen outside of Akamonkai. So if you're using some other study resource and they give you a verb in their dictionary form, that's where this would be really important to go ahead and start trying to use. And we're, trying to split it up and going from there, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, where are we? We're over here. All right. So continuing on, what we've been doing with all of these, identifying the verb groups and having these different conjugation styles, we've been getting it into the mas form. But to make things a little bit easier, the rest of the conjugations that have been revealed up to this point are all conjugations from the mas form. And I really want to nail that in, because once we see a verb and it has mas at the end, we don't need to really think of it as an ichidan or godon anymore. We've already done that step, right?
Okay.
So the first thing we're going to go over is the negative conjugation. Oh, I think I have it pulled up later. I had a little short exercise to kind of quickly run through some verbs and do some conjugations, but we can do that at the
Okay.
end. So once we have it in our mas form, after doing all of the steps from the previous slides, we just look at the mas, we drop the su, and add sen. So ma sen.
Mas to masin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alternatively, you can just look at mas and replace su sen however you feel it's easier to understand. As long as you get it to masen, you're doing really good. That's the point.
Okay.
So our first example, taberu, we've already talked about this being an ichidan. So to get it to
Mhm.
its mas form, how would we conjugate this to from taberu to mas?
Okay. I've got the flowchart of legend in front of me.
Okay.
Um, so we got a ru, we got an air sound, we drop the ru, we put the mas. Tabemas.
Height. Height. And now following these next steps,
Um,
what would we say to
we swap the su with the sen. So
yeah,
tabemasen.
height, tabemasen. Do not eat, or I will not eat.
Mm, the monk method.
Let's run through Nomu.
Okay. So we've got no moo. Um, not a single moo in this household. No cows. Um, it is not a do. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's that.
Okay.
We changed last character from U to E. Um, wait, hold on. I'm stumbling myself somewhere along here. Um,
Now you got it.
okay. No nomimas. Um,
Yep.
and then that to nomimasen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, notice how once we get in this Moss form, the conjugation styles completely the same,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the fact that this first one's Ichidan and the second one's Godan. We
Okay.
have Moss, we can just take it from there. Okay.
All right. So when we're conceptualizing that like dictionary form and we're looking at
Mm-hmm.
like let's say like the masen, would is like if we're trying to archive that form in our mind through like brute force memorization, would it be like nomi tabe, and so forth?
So that is what is referred to as the verb stem
Mm-hmm.
or pre-Moss form. I prefer
Primas.
verb stem because, yeah, you'll usually see that stem with a lot of other conjugations.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I'm may not have completely understood your question. Does that
No. I think
answer
because
it?
I think in my mind I
Uh-huh.
have I have this thought of like you should not conflate a verb stem with the dictionary form, but I also
Correct.
don't know how to differentiate them at the same time. I'm like, I know I
Yeah.
shouldn't do that, but I don't know what I should do instead.
Mhm. Yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned about the verb stem for a while.
Okay.
It will pop up and we will make note of it when it does, but for the time being, I don't really think too hard about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Just know that this form over here is the base dictionary form.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I was saying earlier, it is really difficult to see a verb in a Moss conjugation and to work backwards.
Mm.
So what I always do, or what I would do anyway, is I just use Jisho,
Mm-hmm.
jisho.org. It's a community sourced online dictionary. And when you look up a verb, even if it's in its conjugated form, it will usually do a perfect job of showing you what the dictionary form of that verb is, and it will also explain what category of verb it is, right? So I'm going to just do taberu or
Okay.
tabemas, right?
And this is
So if I
just a
just,
web app. This isn't platform specific, right?
yeah, this is just a website.
Okay.
I will say though that there are apps of this because there's apps for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically on the mobile versions, drawing kanji when you get to that point is so much better on the mobile app versus the web browser. The web
Mm.
browser almost does not work. Um, it's
Straight
I don't know
unfinished.
why. Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. So
Okay.
we'll just put this in with its Moss conjugation and see. It gave us the dictionary form taberu. And you'll notice here, it's labeled it as an ichidan verb.
Okay.
Do the same for nomimas. Nomimas gave us the dictionary form, and it labeled it as godan.
Okay.
Don't worry about all this.
All right. I was gonna say there's a lot of info here.
Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Okay. So any questions on getting mas to masen?
I think I'm good on this.
Okay. I haven't been mentioning the page numbers. If you're watching this, there you go. It's at the top.
It's at the top. Hopefully you know where to track down a Genki book, whether you want it digitally, you got a library with you by
Yeah.
it's a fairly common textbook, thankfully.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I have a PDF version specifically of the third edition.
Oh, okay.
And
I know I have a
I,
PDF of the second edition floating around. So maybe
huh,
maybe I just pop that on the drive as long as no one yells at us for.
maybe.
All right.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to find, not gonna
Okay.
lie. So you can usually just Google it and then PDF.
Cool.
It should find it easy enough. Okay. Now the last thing that we're going to briefly mention are the irregular verbs. And also I just kind of put this in. Doshi is Japanese for verb.
Okay.
Just thought I'd put that in. Suru, like we've been saying, goes to shimas. So if we want to turn this to negative, Raf-san, what would we do?
Mm. Masen, shimasen.
Yeah. And then kuru becomes kimas. And
Hmm.
then,
Kimasen.
yeah, once again, just illustrating that even though this is the irregular category, even though these verbs usually do their own thing, because we've gotten it into the mas form, it follows the same conjugation
Okay.
conventions as everything else.
I was about to ask, like, this is not irregular at this point, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only irregular thing that happened is this first,
Hmm.
conjugation. But once we're here, we are good to go.
The early phases. Okay.
Mm-hmm. The last thing we'll just briefly mention before we get into some practice is the past tense forms of it, both negative and positive, which we've been saying as well,
I was
right?
gonna say these are not foreign things to our ears, at least, right?
Yeah, yeah. We've mentioned that we did not do something like tabemasen deshita, right?
Hmm.
Or tabemashita. We like, yeah, we had that whole half day where we talked
Yeah.
about things that we did in the past, right? So
Right.
so yeah, the two forms for positive and negative. The first one for positive in past tense, that mas just becomes mashita.
Okay.
You can do the drop it and then slap on shita, or you can do the replace, whatever makes it easier to
Hmm.
conceptualize. And then for negative, we just slap on deshita.
Okay.
Yeah, there's we don't alter the masen, we just put on a deshita.
Masen to masen deshita.
Yeah.
Okay.
And once again, just reiterating, this is applies to everything because we are coming from the mas form.
Okay.
So
Once we've hit Moss form, like sky's the limit.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And just to kind of illustrate that again, here are some examples. Can you go ahead and read these out for me?
Yeah. So we've got tabemas, tabemashita, and tabemasen deshita.
はい。次。
Nomimas, nomimashita to nomimasen deshita.
Yeah.
And then shimas to shimashita to shimasen deshita.
はい。
Okay.
はい。
Before we
Oh,
oh okay, there's
uh-huh.
another one. I'm sorry. No, I'll do this one, then I'll ask my question.
Okay.
Um kimas, kimashita, and then kimasen deshita.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. What was your
I,
question,
I
or
was
what were
gonna
you?
say to help like better associate like what we're saying to like these conjugations, could you associate like each one to their tense? That makes sense.
Yeah. So this first category is just the like present affirmative or like future affirmative. So it is contextual on what is being said, but
Hmm.
tabemas can just be like I will eat or
Okay.
I do eat. So it relies on context. So it'd be different. It would be different if I said o sushi o tabemas. That just
Hmm.
means like on its own, I eat sushi.
I'm in the habit
Uh,
of eating sushi.
yeah, it's something I generally do.
Okay.
Versus konban sushi o tabemasu. Tonight I'll eat sushi. I will eat
Okay.
sushi tonight.
And you said that was
Right?
future affirmative?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like general future affirmative,
That's my
right?
favorite Xenoblade spin-off, you know?
Mm-hmm. um
There's a
in the
future connected is the
yeah
thing.
in this middle category, this is a similar thing, but just past tense. So it's
Okay.
like I did eat. So like kodomo no goro, during childhood, kodomo no goro o sushi o tabemashita. I ate sushi when I was a kid.
Hmm.
Versus kino sushi o tabemashita. I ate sushi yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a similar thing with mas where it's either in general I did this thing, or depending on context, I specifically did not do the thing.
Okay.
Or I specifically did do the thing, sorry. And then the final category here, continuing with taberu as our example, tabemasen deshita, that is, I did not eat, or like in a general sense.
Hmm.
So we'll, uh, what is it? Like, koko no Koko no goro. So during my high school years. Um, Brussels sprouts. I don't know the word for that.
Burasuru.
Brussels sprouts o tabemasen deshita. So when I was in high school, I did not eat Brussels sprouts. Versus kino tabemasen deshita. I didn't eat them yesterday.
Okay. Okay,
Yep.
that
Does that
that
help?
helps. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So that's all of the information. That's
Okay.
it. Like I said, there's a lot of details, but we're just notating technically what we've been doing this whole time, right?
Okay.
So it's just, I really wanted to make sure we had this foundation moving forward because, like, I want to assume that one of the next major conjugated forms is going to be what's called the te form, and you really need to make sure you know what an ichidan verb is versus a godan in order to do that, right?
Okay.
And also, if you come across any verb out there in the wild, now you know how to conjugate it to mas, how to, masen deshita, mashita.
Mm.
If you can retain all of this, the world is your cracked open oyster. It's not
Oh,
fully pried
bro.
open. We're getting there.
You
But
can see some meat in there for sure.
yeah, yeah. You can see what's underneath the hood. Exactly. Um, So let's go ahead and just run through a couple of exercises. We can spend as much time as we want on this as we need. I know we don't have all the time in the world, so we'll just
Mhm.
see where we're at
Yeah, I've
when we
probably
when we
got
get
like
there.
another 20 minutes in me, I would say.
Okay. So is this legible enough, you
Yeah,
think?
I think so.
Okay, I mean I can zoom in a little bit more. It's kind of crunchy, but
Yeah, but
um
it's legible. It's legible.
yeah.
It's really
So
just a
what
matter of me recognizing font differences.
yeah,
Okay.
let me add a
Sorry.
little sticky note in the corner to just kind of make a note of what I want to be doing here. So the first thing that I want to do, can you see the sticky note? Is that
Mm,
on screen?
oh, I wasn't looking at the right place. I can. Yes.
Okay. And I don't know how to make this bigger. I'm not gonna lie. So
That's okay. It's
um
actually because it's like it's natively on your screen. It's not crunchy even a little bit, so that's fine.
yeah, okay. And this is just for your reference,
Hmm.
basically, just to keep track of what I'm wanting to do. So the first thing we're going to do is identify verb group. Okay.
Okay.
And then from
And by that
there,
we mean Ichidan or Godan or
or
irregular.
irregular.
Okay.
Yes, correct. And then conjugate to mas, just regular old mas,
Hmm.
or I'll say mas and masen form, right?
Hmm.
So present, positive, and negative.
Okay.
And then we will finish it with the past tense. Conjugate to, let me add a little dash, mashita and masen deshita. Okay.
Okay.
And we were not forming, sentences with this. We're just running through to get some practice. That's all.
Okay. All right. So.
Oh, and then we'll do this because like this is in chapter. By the point that I like mentioned past tense stuff, I think it's like lesson or chapter 4 of Genki. So there's like a pretty good number of verbs. So I want to say, if we can, state
Like the
or
meaning.
just yeah, state meaning.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So first one.
All right. Hanasu. This is to. Well, I guess verb group first. Um.
It's up to you.
All right. It's to talk, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
To talk, speak.
All right. Um. All right. So let's look at that ending. Um.
Mm-hmm.
It is not ru. Um.
Yep.
This is not an irregular, right?
This is not an irregular.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um. So then we're changing. I'm tripped up, I guess, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what do I do with a na sound? Is this ni?
Yeah, so this is why because I remember running through this with you in the past,
Hmm.
and this is the same hiccup that we had back then. I was really trying to emphasize that we are only ever changing what we're doing to this final character.
Mm.
Everything before this, we don't touch. It is just this final character.
All right. It's interesting to see that my brain is really wants to do this.
Yeah, it really, really wants to.
Okay. Hanasu, last character. Um, this is Tsurushi.
Yep.
Okay. Hanashimasu.
Uh-huh.
And then Hanashimasen.
Yeah.
Um, and then that would become Hanashimashita.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Okay. That one I
Yep.
was not as confident on. Hanashimasen deshita.
はい、正解です。次
Okay. Um, this is Kau or
Yeah,
Katsu?
Kao.
Kau. Okay. Um, to differentiate those, it like I am looking at the fact that this is physically larger and has the dot on top of it, right?
Yeah, the dash is really what'll give it away.
Okay. Because I I never have confidence. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see Tsu, so we can
Okay.
point that out when we get there.
Okay. Kau. Zonaru.
Hmm.
Um. But is irregular, right?
No,
No. Okay.
the only two irregular verbs we have are suru or shimas and kuru, kimas.
Would you mind
Uh-huh.
if it's not cheating too much to like in that identify verb group like put like parentheses for like is it one of these? Yeah, like there.
Is it
If
one of what?
like is it one of these two specific verbs?
Do you just want me to mention, like, type in
Yeah, I
kuru
like to be able to
and suru
reference and be like, all right, I'm looking for these two bastards.
like this?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. FBI watch list. They know what they did.
Yeah.
Okay. Um okay. So um cow not an offender. Um change
Yeah.
last character from it's oo, so kai? Is that right?
Hmm.
All
Yep.
right. And then admas kaimas.
Yeah.
So that would then go to kaimasen, kaimashita, kaimasen deshita.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, like, this will get kind of repetitive, so just try and keep a mental note of what each conjugated form, like what tense that is. Like when you say, you can just do this in your head. I mean, if you want to do it aloud, totally fine.
No, I think
But
I'm
just
good. I
being
think I'm
like,
good because time.
yeah, okay.
All
But yeah,
right.
just be like kaimas, it's positive, kaimasen, negative, mashita, past tense, masen deshita, negative past tense, right? That's all.
Okay. Okay.
And do you remember what this verb is?
Um,
Like the meaning of it?
kaimas. Is this to buy?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't do that. I guess. Oops. Kai. All right. Next, yomu. This one's to read.
Yeah.
Okay. Um. So we're looking at that mu. Um. Which is not ru. Um. But and it ends in u. So this is a godan.
Hmm.
Mu becomes me.
Yep.
Yomimasu,
Hmm.
yomimasen, yomimashita, yomimasen deshita.
Yeah. And I want to assume that you're thinking of this correctly in your mind, but you said it ends in like oo.
Mm,
All verbs end in an oo sounding character,
okay.
right? So mu, oo,
Right.
even like
Yes,
ru,
yes.
right? Yeah, I
Like
just wanted to make
the
that clear.
vowel sound, not the like actual
Hmm.
hiragana.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All verbs end in some kind of oo sounding character
Okay.
in their dictionary form, I should say.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's a good clarification. All
Right,
right.
4番.
Um, kaki. But ban by itself is just number, right? Number
Yeah.
four. Okay. Like
Number
bango,
4.
bango, denwa bango. Um.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay. Um, kaku. Um, ku becomes. Well, I should step. This is to write, right?
Yeah,
Okay. He writes the ninja info cards. Not an offender. Um,
not an offender. Clean
ku
record.
becomes ki.
And why is that?
It's got an u sound, and we're moving it from the ku group to the ki group.
But why are we doing that?
That would be the e sound in that same like ku set, correct?
I'm getting it because this is a Godon verb.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, all right. Yeah. This is a good one. Okay.
You've got it. You've got it correct.
Okay, okay.
Very, very true. I just wanted to, yeah.
So true, King. So true. Okay. Kakimasu,
Mhm.
kakimasen, kakimashita, kakimasen deshita.
はい。はい、正解です。はい、
Cool.
5番。
All right. Offender. Offender. I'm offended. Um,
Mhm.
what do we do? What do we do with offenders? Kuru kuki? Is that right?
Yeah, so does it kind of does its own little thing. Thankfully, it's a simple conjugation on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So this verb is what is the meaning of it? Because I wonder if that'll help conjure up what you
Yeah.
need to do.
Uh, this is. I remember this being a pain point when we did this just amongst ourselves too. Um, Cookie.
It's just kimas.
It's just kimas. Okay.
Yeah, just kimas. And the
Shoot.
verb means like to come.
Okay. Kimas. Yeah, it is one of those things where it's like in my ears. I've heard it a million times, and it's just
Mhm.
I don't immediately associate looking at it like this with
Yeah,
what it
yeah, for sure.
becomes. It's like I'm looking at it as like Pokemon evolutions. I'm like, I know who Charizard is. I don't know what's a Charmeleon. You know? Okay. Kimas. Kimasen.
Yep.
Kimashita. Kimasen deshita.
はい、正解。次
Okay.
next.
All right. This is a Sue, correct?
Yeah, yeah, this is a tsu.
Okay. Is this ma in front of it? Matsu?
Yeah, matsu.
Okay. Matsu. Not an offender.
Mm-hmm.
Is not Ru. So it's a Godon.
Yep.
And that Su, does that become she?
Chi. Yeah.
Chi. Okay, okay. With a CH for in case the
Mhm.
mic gets that a little weird. Machi. What is machi?
Yeah. Matsu means to wait.
To wait. Okay, I don't
Yeah.
think I have that ingrained in me.
Yeah. When we get to the tenta
Mhm.
forms, you'll recognize this as being like matta
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Like a
or
matane.
matte. Yeah, like chotto matte.
Okay, okay.
Right. This is the base or the dictionary form of
Gotcha.
that
Okay,
same
okay.
verb.
All right. Um, we said machi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Machimas. Machimasen. Machimashita. Machimasen deshita.
Hey.
Okay. Oh, is that sa or ki for the second
Ki.
character? Okay. Okiru. So this is to wake up or to
Yep.
wake. And this is gararu. Making it an ichidan. And
Well, the ru on
oh,
its
that's right.
own
I guess
doesn't make it an
I'm getting
ichidan,
ahead
right?
of myself. Yeah.
Yeah, you are correct.
Okay.
But-
But it the sound that it ends with is that key, which is what confirms it as one. I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So then we're dropping this through. We're putting mas,
Mhm.
okimas, okimasen, okimashita, okimasen deshita.
Hey.
Okay. This is wakaru, to understand.
Yep.
I have the wow, like, oh, kind of like, well, what am I doing? I'm like, well, I know the word for here. Okay. Ends in ru.
Mhm.
Checking the character before the ru is a ka, which is not an e or an I. So we're in the Godan zone.
Yeah.
And it's not a little freakazoid.
Yep. It is
So
not.
we're just putting mas in there. Um waka wakamas? Why does that feel wrong?
Yeah, because we said it was a Godon, right?
Yeah. Change last character ru wakaru from u to e.
Yep.
Oh, wakarimasu.
はい。
Wakarimasen. Wakarimashita. Wakarimasen deshita.
はい。
Okay. Could you hear the frustration in me? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm a fool. Suru. And this is to do because it ends up becoming shimas, right? Because it's a
Yeah.
freak. Because it's a little,
Yeah, it's on the
he's a
list for a
cocky little
reason.
freak. Favorite phrase in the world. On the FBI watch list because he's a little freak. Shimas, shimasen, shimashita, shimasen deshita.
はい。正解です。
Okay. Toru, to take. Is that right?
Yeah. So like to
Yeah.
take a photo.
Okay. Shashin.
Yep.
Toru, the dragon maid. And Nuru.
Uh-huh.
And does not end in e or an I. So I'm taking the last sound
Yep.
from an u to an e. This is this is the same problem I think I was running into earlier
With
where like
with Wakaru.
no, not with well, I mean maybe it might end up being. Somehow when there's
Okay.
only like two syllables,
Mhm.
I get hung up a little bit on like what is the sound that I'm changing.
Gotcha.
And I'm not super used to saying Toru, I think, so I don't have the
Yeah.
association to like guide me along. Like, well, your
Mhm.
mind remembers this one.
Right. Right.
Okay, let me just go through the crunching the numbers.
Yeah.
Ends in ru.
Yep.
Is it an I or an E? And I'm looking at the to here, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. It is not.
Yeah. It's not E or E.
Okay.
Correct.
And I'm changing the last character, which is the ru here, correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. To
Yeah, this isn't a resume. There's no hidden blank text
okay.
hiding behind it.
All right. So I changed that to from an u toru to an e tori, and
Yep.
then add mas torimas.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Torimas, torimasen, torimashita, torimasen deshita.
はい。そうですね。
Okay. I take it. Aru? Is this like to exist Aru?
Yep. That's
Okay.
the one.
All right. Not to exist. Aru. I guess this is probably gonna end up going through the same math.
Exactly.
Oh shoot, that's my timer, Jimmy.
Okay.
All right.
All good.
All right. You think we're all good to cut it here?
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is the last thing that I had here. I mean, yeah, the last slide here is Owari.
Owari. Shoot.
Yeah. All
Okay.
But we'll I was watching YouTube earlier. Hello.
Oh, secret Trump leaks. Oh no, the secret's out. All your Japanese students know the Trump secrets.
Oh no.
All right. Hey Google,
yeah.
Stop.
Stop it.
Stop it.
But yeah, that's it for now. We'll try and remain mindful of the things that we've talked about here as we continue going through our verbs through Akamonkai. But yeah, that's all.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for your time, Jimmy. I'll put this in the usual places. I guess I'll upload that like flowchart screenshot in isolation. But other than that, thank you for everything and take care.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Mata ne.